So I'm getting ready to launch into a virtual pinball cabinet build. At the time of recording, still waiting for my cabinet flat pack to arrive from Tukari, hopefully coming next week. But I've got a lot of other parts here, and I'm excited to go through them and show you guys what I'm planning. And for those of you who don't know what a virtual pinball cabinet is, you'll get an idea of what can go into one. This is going to be a pretty premium build. You can certainly build them much simpler, but I'm going pretty all out. But I didn't just start out here. I want to, in this intro video, go into my background around pinball and virtual pinball, because that really informs how I think about virtual pinball and the opinions I have, which seem to be quite a bit different than a lot in the community. I guess some popular perceptions that just great for them, great for other people, don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Why there seems to be way more builds with like LED matrix and side rail lighting than something I would consider essential to gameplay, like staged flippers. That's a bit beyond me, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What's my pinball background? I did not grow up with a whole lot of pinball. I do have very fond memories of Sierra's 3D Ultra pinball series, especially the Space series. I don't actually, it's like the first one. Some footage will be up on the screen here.
Colony table activated. To start bonus event, click the glider twice.
I probably spent more time as a kid. Well, I don't know. That was the first one. But I definitely spent a lot of time on the Lost World. Not so much on, what is it, the Haunted Mansion one. Anyway, it was mostly the Sierra 3D Ultra series that I had growing up. Didn't do a whole lot of pinball after that till more recently, a few years ago, with the advent of VR and the Quest 2. The Star Wars pinball pack came out from that. Got to playing that, and VR, like, I can really enjoy it, but not for more than like 30, 40 minutes at a time. So I started wanting to play it more outside of VR. And also, I could tell there's a lot I was missing. I learned from those Sierra games how much pinball has a definite progression. Because in those games, like, you're on a table, you've got a discrete, definite goal that once you accomplish that, you go to the next table. It's just like almost any other video game, especially in that era. You beat the level, you go on to the next level. So I've always kind of thought of pinball in that way, which I know is very different than how a lot of people perceive pinball who's not really into it. They think it's just about keeping the ball alive. It's just a bunch of flashing lights, fairly random. I moved past that misconception pretty early on. But I never really, outside of those old Sierra games that I played for hours and hours as a kid, for more of a real pinball machine, or even more advanced simulation like the pinball effects tables and things, I never really learned the skills necessary to go far in those. I knew they were there, so I wanted to play more. Got some looking in, found Visual Pinball 10, VPX, like the gold mine of virtual pinball. And I got that set up, and I started with just a PlayStation 4 controller hooked up to my PC. And that was great. That was awesome. I was still at that point when I started looking up local areas around me that had some real pinball tables. The first one I went to I now know wasn't the best place. The tables weren't well maintained, but it was still a blast. And so from there, I went pretty quick into getting a Pin 1 mini controller, not the current, although beautiful, like that steel blue one. Those older ones, they were like just a black metal top, and it was a wood housing. Still much of the same features. Great, highly recommend those. That was awesome. But I only had that like a month before it was Christmas, and my brother, who doesn't really know anything about pinball, but he does know arcade builds, and he does this 3D printer, printed me a larger housing. I don't have that anymore because I've taken it to pieces. But it was nice because it was about the width of a real pinball table, but it's still desktop mounted. The guts, not great. The plunger, not great. Like I said, wasn't built by someone who's a pinball person, but took the guts out of the Pin 1 Mini, put them into that 3D printed housing, and that was even better because now finally I had the proper width, which made for a more comfortable stance. And I definitely recommend, hey, I think this is a great path in. If you're just getting in, yeah, start with what you have. If that's a keyboard and mouse, fine. If that's a gamepad controller, probably even better. And then, yeah, the Pin 1 Mini, not sponsored, but highly recommended. And if you want to go up from there, then yeah, making your own housing, 3D printed housing, taking those same guts of the Pin 1 Mini, putting them in there, that's a great path forward. And I kept that going. What I found was how important nudging is in pinball. It is as important as flipper skills. And I felt like I couldn't nudge in the virtual table as well as I could a real table, largely because of the size. The stance was all wrong. It was too low when sitting on my desk. Not this desk, it was a different one. But regardless, it didn't have the heft of the weight. Like if I hit it, it would tend to slide. I tried to do it like non-stick, like grippy, like drawer shelf lining material. Like it didn't really work. So I decided to go up to a stubby controller. Got a flat pack for that. Again, took the guts out, which still were from that same Pin 1 Mini, and put it in there. And it was better. You know, I even added sandbags to weigh it down to try to make it like it was. I calculated what it was. I can't remember if it was a third or a fourth, like the length of a pinball machine and accurate to the width. So I think it was like maybe a fourth, maybe a third, whatever. And I made it like that fourth or a third, roughly the rate of a pinball machine. Like pinball machine's about 250 maybe. So yeah, I made it like 60, 70, 80 pounds. I don't remember exactly. But that's how far I went. Like I'm thinking about the dimensions. I'm thinking about how right it is. I'm thinking about how heavy it is. I'm thinking about how much it moves. Like I definitely wanted something that was on real pinball legs. All because of gameplay, because of control, being able to nudge. That is an approach that I found is very different from a lot of people. But that is what's important to me. And I've since gotten more involved with real pinball and local pinball leagues. I actually stepped away from virtual pinball for a while because I started to have dreams of like, well, maybe I could become good enough, get practiced enough that I could travel to bigger tournaments and really compete on a state, even a national level in pinball. I eventually, you know, through various life circumstances, determined that that wasn't for me. I'm not willing to dedicate that much of myself to pinball. But during that time where I was thinking that way, I stayed away from virtual because I had the reasoning that no matter how good the physics, it's not going to be quite the same as the real thing. So I'm going to focus on the real thing instead of the virtual. And when I decided to move away from that mindset, when I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to play pinball for fun. I don't have the kind of commitment and the kind of time it would take to really be a high-level player. And also could kind of suck some of the fun out of it. I went back to virtual, and I finally decided to install what I'd already actually ordered almost all the parts for, a physical tilt bob. When I added that, I found my nudging settings were actually a lot further off than I thought compared to where I needed to be in order to not constantly tilt. I actually found that really helpful to dial in accurate nudging. Once I did that, then it really opened up so much more realistic than I remembered it being. So I think it's a combination of taking a break from it and putting in that tilt bob and getting the nudging really dialed in. I really began to realize, like, this is awesome. Like, this is really enough for me. I mean, combined with still playing in like local leagues and all for the real thing, but like at home, because when I was looking at the competitive thought, like I'd already bought a Total Nuclear Annihilation pinball cabinet last year, well, 2 years ago. And then last year, I got a 60s pinball machine, ODM machine to fix up and repair, wanting to work towards, building out the collection. Those were two at that point. As I could afford, build out more and more of a real pinball collection, which I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. That's hard, but I was going to try to make it work. And then this, I realized, I can just focus down this virtual pinball path and not have to worry about having all this space. And I was really concerned because I knew the only way I could really take virtual pinball to the point that I'd be satisfied with it is a real high-end, premium, expensive build. And I knew the only way I could afford that would be to sell my real pinball machines and use that to finance this build. So I actually took my large 42-inch OLED monitor. So I laid that monitor on the real pinball machine and got a external monitor I had laying around, put that up for the DMD, and put my stubby pinball controller in front, which put me, multiple feet back from where I should be. But I tried playing that right after, I did all this right after I just played the real machine and simulated the same one. I got a couple of pictures up here. And that, I was blown away. So up to this point, I'd only ever played with the playfield monitor vertical, up and down. After doing that experiment, I was like, yes, I'm in. This is it. I am selling my real machines and I'm going in on this. So, all that to say, summarize, this is going to be a high-end premium build, but I'm going to focus more than anything on gameplay. One of the first things people ask, what size screen? Well, I told you 42-inch, already had that, but why, even back then, why did I pick it? Because I thought it'd be best for gameplay. Some people go smaller. Hey, if that's all you can afford, if that's all you can fit, fine. For me, I don't want much smaller because then the cabinet's got to be smaller and then that's going to throw off the feel of the nudging and the weight of it. I mean, the weight's not going to be exactly like a real machine, but I'm thinking it'll be in the ballpark anyway. I don't want too big. I don't want a 48-inch or I've seen like 50, 52. I do not want that because that's just going to be too big. I mean, the 42, I'm already putting that in a wide body cabinet, which I would much prefer to have it in a standard size. And I know there's people who have, but I wanted to go with what I could easily do in a flat pack, in an apartment. That's the main reason I went with Ducari, because they are, to my knowledge, the only supplier for flat packs that don't come with a disclaimer, this is a woodworking project, and you may have to sand, and you may have to wood fill, and you may have to get straps and all the glue. I mean, you still got to glue, but at least they've got their own joinery system. And maybe, is it pinballcabinets.com, I believe? I know they've really been stepping up their game, I think, because of the competition from Ducari. They might have those fasteners now, but they still have that disclaimer about needing to possibly sand and wood fill. And it was actually pinballcabinets.com that I bought my stubby controller flat pack from. And I remember that was difficult but manageable, but that was small. Like a full-size cabinet, I can't take that out on my porch to do sanding, to do wood filling. And I'm not doing that indoors. Like there's all kinds of problems with that, especially with the fumes from wood fill and the particles from sanding. It's like, it was, I did it with restoring that 1965 Paradise Gottlieb machine. But also after doing it, me and my wife talked and we kind of like, yeah, that was fun. Glad we did it. I'm not doing that again. Not while we're here. If one day, have a garage, have a workspace, sure. But all that to say, really that's why I went with Ducari, because I know they ship it in a way that's not going to get damaged, or so I'm told. Haven't seen it yet. and it is ready to go with a bit of wood glue, but beyond that, no filling, no sanding. We'll see. Haven't seen too many reviews on it. Haven't seen too many people making videos on it. That's another reason that I used to convince myself to start this project on video instead of just doing it on my own. So we'll find out together. But yeah, that's the plan. That's Rod Jakari. I'm going to cut this video here because I know a lot of people may just want to skip all this intro stuff. If you did watch it though, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing for more videos and the rest of this series. But yeah, next video is going to be going through the parts I have. I think I have basically everything in hand except the cabinet. So we'll be going through that. I may split that up into multiple parts. I'm not sure. We'll see how long it takes. It's going to be a long video, but I think I've got a lot of interesting thoughts to share about the different parts, and certainly you'll get to see what I'm planning. I'm going to have a running total of what it'll cost, so you get an idea for your budgeting. And yeah, I hope to see you over there.